Hi, my name is Megan.
Hi.
I'm Emily.
Hi, very nice to meet you. I'm Senator Kamala Harris, Democratic Senator for the state of California. Please have a seat. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you. So like we said, I'm Emily, this is Megan. We're public health undergraduate students at Valparaiso University. So throughout the semester, we've been really focusing on health advocacy and how to advocate for a lot of health policies and legislations that are going on in Congress and things like that. So we kind of just wanted to start by saying that we really admire you and your commitment and your dedication to helping children and families, especially those that are being held in detention facilities along the border. Especially your involvement in getting the process of getting the Dunn Act passed. We just wanted to start by saying that, and we hope and this is very related to what we're here to talk to you about today.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to share with me.
So today we're here to ask you to support a new piece of legislation, and this new piece of legislation would help to improve the conditions for immigrant children and their families. We know this is an important topic for you since because of your work with the Dunn Act, but also because you have co-sponsored several other bills related to the topic, including a bill to eliminate racial, religious, and other discriminatory profiling within law enforcement, as well as a bill to protect children affected by immigrant enforcement actions, and a bill to limit the use of solitary confinement and other forms of restrictive housing within immigrant detention centers. And this bill we are here to discuss today aligns with your goals as a senator to be a voice to those who don't have a voice themselves, as well as to stand up for underprivileged groups. And as public health students, we definitely share in that passion as well. And today we're going to ask you to support the HUMANE Act, which is an act that targets immigrant children that allows them to have a voice as well as their families.
Okay.
So within this bill, there's two primary priorities. So I'm just going to explain each of them just so you can learn a little bit more about it. The first primary priority is just to improve the overall care of families, specifically children that are being held in facilities. So very similar to the Dunn Act, you've been so involved with. One of the goals is to require the Department of Homeland Security to just be more consistent and more continuous with their regulations and enforcing those regulations, especially when it comes to preventing sexual abuse or physical abuse of those that are being held in facilities at the borders. Another thing that it really aims to do is just to increase the overall standards of care. So, making sure that the living environment is safe and clean for those that are being held there while they're waiting for their court proceedings and things like that. Another thing that's really important about this bill that we really wanted to share with you is that it would require the Department of Homeland Security to keep families together, which is something that we're very passionate about. We want to make sure that parents and their children are staying together at these facilities and not being separated. That goes into making sure that children are not being placed into the wrong hands. So if they do get separated, we don't want them being in the hands of dangerous individuals. So the second primary priority is to streamline processing while increasing resources at the port of entry. So this would just hire additional staff to just keep the updated processes going and just to more effectively and safely manage ports of entry. So like I was saying before, making sure the environment is safe and clean for those that are staying there. And then a part of this would include requiring the Department of Homeland Security to require at least 4 processing centers for high traffic areas. This is really important because, like I said before, it would keep families together rather than separating them. This would just help the conditions be safer, cleaner, and overall just more humane. So we believe that these priorities that we're talking about with the HUMANE Act aligns very well with your goals and your values as a senator. And so we just wanted to ask for your support in doing that. And yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Something we really focused on with the Dunn Act was making sure that we would improve sanitary conditions and health conditions for people within detention centers. But I do think it is really awesome that within your classes you are learning about this health advocacy, and that a priority of yours is watching out for children and parents to make sure that they have those rights even before they enter the detention centers, or to even prevent it if they are aware of their rights and have a parent present. So I am very interested in learning more about this act. Would it be all right if I asked you guys a few questions?
Yeah, of course.
Hi, so one of my first questions for you guys would be, how does this piece of legislation protect unaccompanied migrant children at the border?
So the first thing, it would allow that no questions or final decisions could be made by the children that are being held. So this is making to where like the children themselves cannot make decisions without their parents present. This could be biological or adoptive parents. So if they are biological parents, testing will be required to like make sure that like they're actual biological parents. If they're adoptive parents, paperwork will be required that they can look over and make sure that those are their parents, and they have the authority to be there when questions are being asked and be there for final decisions that are being made. One exception for this is that decisions by children can be made when it's dealing with them not voluntarily coming to the United States. So one thing that's really important with this bill is that children can say that they want to go home. So if they want to go home, we allow them to go back to their country instead of coming into the United States. And this is really important when dealing with trafficking, because if they are coming against their will, it gives them that chance to go back to their families. One thing with this is that it makes it more of an expedited process, which is something different than how it is currently. So this would just prevent like overpopulation of detention centers and like processing centers. So that's another thing that's really important, and how that would help unaccompanied migrant children.
Okay, so I know you have also mentioned a lot about the Department of Homeland Security. So within this piece of legislation, who would that department be reporting to directly?
This bill requires the Department of Homeland Security to give a set of reports to Congress, and that set of reports is going to be due on September 30th of 2020, and it would specifically be a set of reports about unaccompanied migrant children. And it would require, one of the reports would require a detailed summary of the facilities and the contractors being used to house these children. And there would also be another report about an assessment of the extent to which these children are being given legal like explanations and information about what their options are, and just helping them understand the process to the best that they can.
Okay, so overall, how would you guys describe that this piece of legislation will improve the conditions within detention centers?
It will put more officers in place. More officers will be hired so that they can better have better management of these facilities, better overall like supervision of the children, and it would also put more money forth on improving the 10 of the major ports of entry.
Okay. So I guess my last question for you all would be specifically, this is a new piece of legislation, correct? So are there any type of provisions that are going to be made, or any proposed provisions to change any aspects of this piece of legislation?
So the bill is on the right track, but there are definitely a couple of areas where improvement could for sure be put together. So the first thing is that they want more senators to focus on the families as a whole, as well as expediting the process of gaining asylum within the country, rather than putting families as a whole on the back burner and having them have to take longer to get through the legal decisions and the legal process.
Okay.
Another way that the Humane Act needs to improve for more like protective measures would just be is because like it kind of cancels out other bills and other legislations that have already been in place. So for example, the Flores settlement agreement, this would just make it to where none of the protection for those over the age of 18 would be kind of like protected or covered, even if their biological or adopted parents are present. So this is kind of flawed because we know that like not everybody at the age of 18 is like completely independent. So if they do come through with their families and like are reunited with their families, this doesn't give them their opportunity to stay with them just because they're 18 or over.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I'd like to thank you guys so much for your time and coming to talk to me about this Humane Act, and I will definitely consider it. Thank you again.
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for your
thank you so
time.
much.
Thank you again.